I have to go over it again and edit it and make sure that it's no more obscure than is absolutely necessary. No, I want to lay it out so that it's comprehensible. And I've had a lot of success with the biblical ventures that I've already embarked on. I did a series on Genesis in 2017, which turned out to be quite influential. And then I just did a seminar on Exodus with a group of thinkers. And I know there's a hunger for analysis of deep stories. And I also have good people around me that can help me grind my way through the stories and understand them. And so I'm very much I've been having quite a good time writing this book, actually. It's very difficult to write, but it's been extremely exciting and interesting. And I'm hoping, you asked me earlier, what would I consider success with this book? I don't think that you'll be able to read this book and understand it and be atheistic. I think I can demolish the atheistic argument permanently. And it's a weird thing, because it's not like all of a sudden people are going to throw themselves at the feet of God and worship. It's like it requires a reconsideration of what we mean by belief. And I walked through some of it. It's like, do you believe in the good? Well, the difference between believing in good and believing in God is it's a very narrow difference. Now, there are important differences, but it's still a narrow difference. And the thing is, if you don't believe in good, you're aimless. And if you're aimless, you're hopeless. And if you're aimless and hopeless, you're anxious and fractionated. And people can't unite in their beliefs. Like the alternative is not good.
Reversing the Enlightenment is no small task.
Well, hopefully we can save the best of the Enlightenment as well.
It's like the Chesterton's fence of Chesterton's fence. Like how many different fences are in the field, so to speak, and if we've thrown this one out and we're trying to plug it back in, but which bit of it's going back in the ground?
One of the things that's very interesting, and I think people like Dawkins have started to realize this, and I know that people like Douglas Murray and Ayaan Hirsi Ali and Neil Ferguson have recognized this, is that with the death of God, many other things die, things you don't expect. And one of the things that dies when God dies is science, and no one expected that.
How so?
Because science as a practice is a religious practice. It's predicated on religious axioms.
Is it?
Well, you have to believe that there's such a thing as truth. You have to believe that the truth is understandable. You have to believe that understanding the truth is good. You have to believe that there is such a thing as good, right? So imagine, to be a scientist, you have to imagine that, first of all, that the world is comprehensible to the human intellect, but more, that if you investigate the mysteries of the material world, that will be beneficial, right? Those aren't scientific claims. Those are metaphysical claims. And that metaphysical claim is nested in a story. You know, and the Enlightenment types, they've portrayed the scientific revolution as something contrary to the religious substrate. And that's not accurate. That's a French Revolution. That's a Luciferian intellect history. It's not true. The universities grew out of the monasteries. That's where the universities came from. And science, as a widespread enterprise, got its start in the universities. And they grew out of the monasteries. That's not questionable. Like if you go to Harvard or if you go to Oxford and Cambridge, it's just starkly evident. The layout of the colleges is a monastic layout. So the idea that there is some fundamental contradiction between religious belief and the scientific enterprise, there's nothing about that that's true. And part of the reason that we're losing the scientific enterprise right now is because we've unmoored it from its metaphysical substrate and it can't survive. If you're going to be a scientist, you have to put the truth above all else. Scientists are very rare. You have to believe in the truth to be a scientist. I think Dawkins believes in the truth, by the way. So he's an atheist, but he's much less of an atheist than he thinks. That's my impression. Lying scientists are atheistic or just malevolent. Dawkins is a truthful scientist, and insofar as he's pursuing the truth, and insofar as he believes that pursuing the truth will set you free, then he's walking down a path that's Christian to its core. Now, I know he doesn't like that idea, but he also doesn't like the fact that the scientific enterprise seems to be collapsing in terms of its, what would you call, reliability and validity everywhere. So
I appreciate you, mate. I appreciate the time that we get to spend. It always seems to be at a very interesting inflection. Again, this one.
The inflection this time is you're out on tour, eh?
I am. What's your advice for me? How am I going to survive life on the road?
Make sure that when you step on the stage that you understand how unlikely it is that you have the privilege to do this. And make sure you remember that all those people who came to see you, they're hoping for something from you. They put in some time and energy to come and see you. It matters what you do. You go out on that stage with gratitude, right? That'll help a lot. You got to remember that. It keeps you on the ground too. You should be grateful that they're not throwing rocks at you. Right. How ridiculous is it that you get to do this? How unlikely is
Insane.
it? Right, exactly. So you keep that first and foremost in your mind. You remember that you should be stunningly grateful for the miracle that you have the opportunity to do this, because it's ridiculously improbable.
Yeah. Yeah, trying to do that without getting overwhelmed is becoming an increasingly difficult task.
Yeah, well, part of the way you handle that is that you parse off the jobs that other people can do. You know, when you're out on tour, the social element of that can be overwhelming. So you have to protect yourself from that to some degree. But the other thing you do is anything anyone else can do, get someone to do, and get someone competent and reliable so that all you're focusing on, get to the next show on time in the right frame of mind. That's your job. Other people have their jobs. Make sure you're surrounded by people who do their jobs. Like our tours so far, they become increasingly well run. I don't worry about travel, hotels, meals, transportation, none of that. I worry about getting to the venue 1 hour ahead of time, getting my head in the right place, which has to do with this attitude of gratefulness that I described, and then trying to address a serious problem with all the people who are participating in the audience. And then if it's too much, then distribute the responsibility some more.
How do you wind down after a show?
I watched the Trailer Park Boys.
Of course you do.
Yeah. Well, after being that good, you have to not be so good for a while. And the Trailer Park Boys is a very good way of doing that.
Counteract a little bit. Yeah. I texted Rogan about this yesterday, and I thought that he would, God knows how many shows that guy's done. I thought he would have some wisdom for me. I said, every time that I do a show, I'm so excited after I finished that I find it difficult to kind of wind down. I've got 4 shows back to back. Then we fly to Dubai. Then we've got all these shows around the US and Canada. And I'm nervous that I'm not going to be able to sleep. And then if I don't sleep, then I'm not going to be able to perform as well tomorrow, and then it'll spiral. And I thought that he would just have some wisdom. And he said, that's a tough one, man. To be honest, I've never had any problem sleeping. I was like, well, fuck that, I guess, But no, I'm excited. And I'll check back in with you once everything's done. We're going to record one of them properly record it like a special. So that'll be, maybe we'll put it up. Maybe it'll just stay for posterity. I don't know. But we're going to have it. So yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah. Well, good luck.
Thank you, man.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Should be a blast.
Yeah. I'm definitely going to learn a lot. And as we've said today, pushing through discomfort and doing different things and following something close to instinct. A lot of the things that I'm saying are like vulnerable in some regards, I guess. They're things that are meaningful to me. And I hope that people take a lot away from it. And I hope they have done from today too. So
one of the things I do when I go on stage is like, I spend the first 10 or 15 seconds looking at the audience. Like, I don't mean as a crowd.
I've seen you do this a lot. I would technically refer to it as stalking. But it's not far from a stalk.
It's good. I look everywhere. And this is an exposure technique. You don't want to be afraid of the audience, and so at all. And you don't want to be talking to the audience. So I look at people and I see, I look everywhere. And you can't see in the back rows if it's a big place, but fundamentally, I look everywhere I can, and I look at individuals, and I'm marking them out as people. And then I'm remembering, I'm talking to all these individual people who've come here. And then that's easy because you can talk to individuals, and they're your guests, That's another thing for your staff to know too. It's like everyone who comes to one of your events has to be treated in the most positive possible way because they're looking to you for something, and it's very hard on them if they're treated inhospitably. And so, one of the things we've tried to do, I travel with a fair number of people now, but everyone knows that like rule number one is treat the audience members, even the ones that have some trouble and maybe even are troublesome. It's like, treat them like they're guests because they're guests and you're bloody lucky that they're here. So don't get all high and mighty about it because they put in their time and effort to come here and they're looking for something. So that's part of that gratitude and then it's fun, right? That keeps it fun. It's like you're so privileged to be there talking to them. You got to have that in mind. What a privilege it is what is these people? They're coming to listen to what you're doing. That's a good deal, man. That's as good as it gets. So you want to have that firmly in the back of your mind and the front too. Yeah.
I'll try my best. Jordan Peterson, ladies and gentlemen. Jordan, thank you so much for today. I'm looking forward to the next time we get to catch up.
Good to talk to you, Chris.
Thank you very much for tuning in. If you enjoyed that episode with Jordan, you will love my conversation with Douglas Murray, which is available right here. Go on. Tap it.